this week, I hosted a questions and answers session at the IMI with General Electric's Jack Welch, who's promoting his new autobiography. A couple of hundred of Ireland's movers and shakers turned up to hear what the outgoing and outspoken boss of America's #1 company thought about the future for America and Ireland in a global recession. What's fascinating about Jack Welch is that despite being vilified in the media as Neutron Jack, the man who instigated the famous perform or be fired culture in GE, he has very strong views about the humans who make up corporations. When I spoke to him for Agenda, I asked him what were the major influences on his life.
David, I'd say that my mother was, if I had influences in my life, she was 75% of them. She really shaped me. I was an only child to an Irish mother who had graduated in the 8th grade, who was in an Irish neighborhood, who dominated the neighborhood, who did everyone's taxes, made the beans on Saturday night, and dished them out. And she didn't. And it turned out in America, by the way, this is a surprise. This book was supposed to be a business book. It turns out that the big hit in this book is my relationship with my mother. And the fact that people are wrestling with how to bring up kids. And here's this story of tough love, of her coming in the locker room and grabbing me, calling me a punk, telling me to see the world the way it really is, not the way you hope it'll be. All these things that I have done came from her.
Because particularly the idea of this is the way it is, kid, and it ain't going to change. And if you don't study, and if you don't knuckle down, nothing's going to happen for you. That was a creed that you seemed to bring to GE.
I've lived it all my life, and the thing that seems to be intriguing people in America is parents are having a tough time deciding whether they discipline their kids, whether they lay off. In today's era, unlike ours, a mother would take a shoe off and whack you in mine. Today that doesn't happen. And people are wrestling with, how much do I discipline my kid? How much heat do I put on them? How much freedom do I put on them? So it's developed some crazy interest over this. But the facts are, she did a lot of stuff for me. Here I am with this speech impediment. And she's telling me my brain works so fast that my tongue can't keep up with it. I actually believed it. And here I was playing ball. And I look now at pictures of the team. Christ, I was half the size of most of the players on the team. But I never thought that.
Why do you think bosses sometimes don't champion their employees in the way, let's say, your mother did you?
Lack of self-confidence in themselves. I mean, if people have self-confidence, all they want to do is be around bright people. All they want to do is have their people flourish. The exciting thing about having a team work for you is watching them grow. In a way, a manager's job is carrying a can of fertilizer in one hand and a can of water in the other, building a garden, watching the flowers grow, and getting some weeds. And when you get the weeds, you got to cut them out. But the facts are, the manager's job is to build self-confidence in their people.
Now, I've worked in places, and I'm sure many people watching have worked in places, where the managers, in your own words, kissed upwards and kicked downwards. How do you find these people? People who are all sweetness and light to the top brass, and then complete little Hitlers to everybody else underneath them.
You eventually find it through an appraisal system, through people quitting. I walked around GE preaching constantly. Don't you ever think you're a victim. If you ever feel like a victim, get out. Because if enough of you get out, we'll find out who's making you feel like a victim. It's your job to take responsibility. Go find another game. There's plenty of games here. Unemployment's low here. Go find something else. Go on your own. Do something. But Jesus, don't spend most of your waking hours feeling like a victim.
Is teaching absolutely essential for a boss?
It's brutal. It's the most important thing a boss does. A boss's entire job is to get the combined intellect of his team to be raised to a new level and to instill spirit. Find every way to celebrate. Find every excuse to have a party. Every little victory counts. I mean, it is so, if a boss can't energize, if he or she can't excite and make people want to be there, they shouldn't have that title.
What do you think of, I'm going to come back to this, what do you think of, and it has happened, talk about teaching and information, companies that a lot of people again have worked in, where information is used as a, exactly, and it's like, I know what's going on, you don't, therefore I'm top dog.
One of the biggest sins of bureaucracies. One of the biggest sins of bureaucracies. And that's what the internet's going to cure a lot of. Because people are going to be able to see transparently right through a company. The idea that the truth is actually the opposite. The boss is the last person to know most everything. The employees know more, by far, than the boss. We have, I'll take a minute here, but we have one survey question that says GE deals harshly enough with poor performers. At the top of the company, the results are 90% we do, wonderful. Middle of the company, about 60. Bottom of the company, 30% feel we deal harshly enough with poor performers. Why? They're in a rowboat. There's 12 of them. 6 are pulling on one side, 5 are pulling on the other, and 1's sleeping. The boat's spinning around. The 11 people in the boat are mad as hell that the boss doesn't know that that person isn't doing something. They know all this stuff. Most bosses tell people to do things, but they don't see how it's done. So the organization is often frustrated by the laggard who doesn't show up on time, who doesn't do their fair share. And an organization desperately wants a discipline. It loves it.
Now, the GE model was every year you do an appraisal. The bottom 10% go, whether they actively go or whether they will choose to go.
You don't do it in this November 15th, 10% are going. You're counseling people. It's taking place over a couple of years. You're bringing them in, but they know all the time where they stand. And they know early in their career where they stand. They're not getting raises. They're not getting stock options. They're being told they're in the bottom 10. They're being told they got a year to fix it. They're being told after 6 months, hey, it ain't working so well. Do this, this. After a year, it's not happening. The next year, it's told, hey, you're better off somewhere else. But let me tell you this. The worst thing a company can do is this false kindness thing, where they hang people around until they're in their 50s. Then they call them in to sack them. Now, then they don't have options.
Yeah, they've no options. They're out in the street.
They're out and they got kids in school, they got second mortgages, and now they've been told for 20 years, hey, you're fine, chap. And now they're all of a sudden being told, hey, you're no good anymore. I'm telling you, there's nothing like straight talk. It just cleans up an organization and gets most of it out. Now, is GE perfect? By no means. Do we have horses' necks? Absolutely. Are we looking for everyone every day? Absolutely.
What do you think going into a recession or a potential slowdown a manager should be thinking of?
1, be out front, be candid, tell every audience the same thing, exactly what you're thinking. Don't forget at all, as you have to take actions that are painful and take people out, perhaps, be sure you're as humane as possible. But don't make the mistake of forgetting the top 20%. The people you know that are going to have to carry you to the next game. I mean, it's absolutely critical that you make sure the winners know that they're part of the team. There's so much time focused on the redundancies and the other things that the winners all of a sudden get paralyzed and frightened that they're liable to be a redundancy. And don't forget, all these downsizings are 5s and 10%. 90% of the people are going to be there. Now, treat the 5 to 10% humanely, but be sure as hell that the winners know they're winners. Do all the things to assure them of a future so that they'll take the team to new levels. And always be candid. Tell everybody what you know, and if what you know isn't true a week later, tell them what you said last week wasn't quite true because you found out something different. But let them know you're always there and you're trying to make this thing work and you're giving it your all, but they know as much as you do about everything.
Jack Welch, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure, David. Thank you.